No, but so I guess what my real issue with the pretrial practices in North Carolina are surrounding the system actors. They hold the people to a standard, but they don't hold themselves and their colleagues to that same standard. So when I hear that a new jurisdiction has created a tool to help guide the decisions, when the tool literally is in the book in 15A 534, like it tells you how to do pretrial. But the fact that you have to invest money to force, literally to force magistrates and judges to do what the law says, why am I held to a different standard than the judicial officials, than the judiciaries? Why are millions spent? In Mecklenburg County specifically, they were spent, what was it, $2.7 million they got to make an algorithm that my they sixth graders now, my sixth grade children could have made? Like $2.7 million, but yet if you drive down 277 in Charlotte, which is the most resourced and the richest city in North Carolina, probably in the Southeast, because all the banks are based there, right? And there are people sleeping on the side of 277 right outside the downtown loop, right? But you can spend $2.7 million to come up with a piece of paper to break down what the law already states. Like, come on.
So that's a good example of that phrase, culture eats policy for breakfast.
Right.
Because if you don't give weight and value to the people you're putting in a cage, then of course you're always going to default toward, well, let's just incapacitate them.
Right.
And especially with that law you're talking about, it literally says you should do everything you can to let somebody else not give them a secured bond unless they're a danger to society, they're going to destroy evidence, or they're going to flee. And yet, what you see every day is the default is locking with somebody else.
Yeah, and there's never been any findings. Like, I thought, now that I work with an organization that has a lot of attorneys, they always talking about findings. They ain't finding nothing in these first appearances.
Right.
They're not asking nobody, can you afford this? Do you live here? Do you have family here? None of that gets asked. They just set a financial condition, and it doesn't matter if you can pay it or not. And it doesn't even matter if what you are charged with, if you will sit there waiting pre-trial longer than what you would if you were just to plead guilty and take the guilty plea. You know what I'm saying? So people sit there and languish for months on stuff. I just bailed a guy out in Rutherford County the other day. You know what they charged him with? For sleeping in a doorway. He was asleep in the door. They charged him with breaking and entering. Breaking and entering for sleeping. It was pouring down rain. He was trying to get out of the rain so that his sleeping bag wouldn't get wet. Because once your sleeping bag is wet, you feel what I'm saying? And so what do? They arrest him, give him a $2,000 secured bond, which is a detention bond. Because if you already know he's homeless, sleeping in people's doors, he don't have no money. You didn't do ability to pay hearing. And then the magistrate had a nerve to ask me, why was I bailing him out? I asked him, why'd you give him a secured bond? He didn't like my questions. I didn't like his questions. I didn't like his questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you mean? Why am I bailing him out? Why'd you lock him up? For sleeping? And so we've criminalized so many things. Things from substance use and mental health disorders are criminalized. Children criminalized for doing normal children activity, playing, being disorderly, horsing around, skipping school. We have criminalized so many of people's behaviors that now what we see is this wall of mass incarceration that Roy built. And we also see the lack of accountability and the lack of gumption when it comes to dismantling this stuff that they created, right? So it's not just on Roy Cooper, it's also on every single, how many judicial districts are there, Daniel? Like 49, 48? 48. Okay, so you got 49 judicial districts with multiple judges in each district, superior and district court. You got magistrates and clerks of court, all who can set pretrial conditions. And if those people who sit in those places of power, as to your point, don't view the people who come before them as people, then of course they don't care that you lock them in the cage and essentially throw the key away when you set a pretrial condition of release, a financial condition of release that people can't afford. Like, to me, that's the most egregious thing, is that people are arrested by a racially disparate police force, state-sanctioned henchmen, right? And then you get into a system where if you have money, you fare better. And in this country, who has money don't look like me. The people who have money are white folks. And so, of course, they have a better outcome. And so not only is it just the financial, it's also the racial disparities that are exacerbated by the pretrial practices. But what really makes me mad is that we invest so much money in in fixing a problem that they literally could just stop and it wouldn't be there. Like, they didn't have to spend and then let's not talk about Buncombe County getting over $1 million to do the exact same thing from the exact same foundation. Why they just couldn't take Mecklenburg's fucking shit? Excuse me, I probably couldn't cuss. Why they couldn't just take Mecklenburg's algorithm and be like, okay, we're gonna do the same thing in Buncombe? I mean, if it's based on the same laws and the same principles, why do we have to have separate money and separate algorithms? Why is it county by county? Why isn't it all 100 counties, since the law applies to all 100 counties? All 100 counties have to use this algorithm, right? Since you got it, you done spent $2.7 million on it, and just make all of them use it. Why? Why can't we?
We could.
Those same laws apply to me.
Yeah.
They apply to me. I can't do something in Mecklenburg that's an arrestable offense and then think I'm gonna go to Alamance and not get arrested for that same thing. Like, why is it different, right?
It's built into the system. Like earlier when you were talking about the rules, the statute says that you have to put findings when you do when you decide bail. We have to put findings according to the rule, the local rule. But if there is no local rule, then you don't have to do findings. And so that's where you see a huge difference in local practices where, some will actually put the findings like, oh, I do think he has money. And then other ones are completely unaccountable, as you said. And that's built into the statute, but then you also see it playing out locally. And so that is where you see the intersection of needing state policy change, but especially local. I mean, because you're right, the statute is better than 95% of the statutes in the rest of the country.
Right.
It's just the culture that's poison.
The culture is poison against black people. That's literally what it is. This country hates black people, and it also simultaneously hates poor people of any color.